Good morning, universe. Welcome to another amazing day of Wynwood Mural Fest virtual experience. Glad to see all your wonderful faces. Good morning, universe. Getting ready for the COVID Chronicles, hosted by Urban Art Now across the pond. This should be an amazing conversation. Another amazing day. Look at all you wonderful people. Here we go.
Okay, everybody ready to go?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wynwood Mural Fest Culture Brunch, hosted by Urban Art Now. Greetings from Amsterdam from my side, and thank you very much for joining today to this panel talk. Today we have a very special talk together with Tina, with Björn, and with Yasha. We talk about our Corona Chronicles. It includes experiences and challenges this year, what happened, what did we encounter, what kind of problems did we end up with, and how did we reinvent, or maybe just move forward to keep our organizations and projects running. I would like everybody to do a quick introduction round. Tina, hi to London.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. So I'm Tina Ziegler. I'm the director of Moniker Art Fair. I also am the founder and director of the Art Conference. I've been a curator specifically focused on street art, graffiti, and urban contemporary art for the past 17 years of my life. Basically, this is all I've been doing. And I have, over the past year, obviously, like all curators, have had a real evaluation of what we were doing, where are we putting our energy, what is the role of our job, really, especially during such times like this, like during a global pandemic. The traditional art fair structure, as we all know, is no longer. As we know, coming up to Art Basel Week, majority of the art fairs have canceled. Same with Moniker this year. We had no planned exhibitions to take place. We did have a lot of projects, of course, like many people, that started out the year with full of ambition for 2020. However, by March, most of our projects were canceled and we had to kind of rethink our structure. So I have taken a lot of positives over the past year. I have really gotten to fall back in love with art, which is what I was speaking about earlier with you, Marcus, just being able to have that time and space to think about the art world again from a different perspective, and just been really focused on how can we make a more positive impact for local communities with mural programs, with street art, and again, just going against kind of just the advertisement that has really taken over our industry, I think. So so it's been a really positive experience. There's been obviously a lot of loss and a lot of struggle, but there's been a lot of positive kind of rebooting as well. And this is where it leads me to 2021 and thinking a lot more about my climate action that I've been doing over the past 2 years. So not only in the art world am I working consistently, but I'm also doing a lot with bioplastics, which is a completely different conversation. But yeah.
Thank you. Björn, how's it on your side in Belgium?
Hello, everybody. I'm Bjorn. I'm the creative director of All About Things. We are a house of creativity. We curate and organize contemporary and street art events and projects in Belgium. We also found it really interesting this year. We happened to sign the lease of our gallery in January before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic struck the world, we said, we were really stressing out. And we said, oh, please let it not be this year, since we were opening the gallery. But still, we did open, and that went really successfully, we must admit. But we had to shift and transition to a more online virtual experience. So we had to make sure we had a web shop available, we had a website in place and stuff like that. And just reaching out to a lot of contacts and customers over the internet. So we started a newsletter, which went really well. We had a lot of positive feedback on it. I think it's been a really interesting year, and I'm really glad that this pandemic happened right now, because I've been doing this for close to 15 years now. I think if it would have happened 15 years ago, it would be totally killing my business and myself, I think. I'm very glad that I have a very stable situation with my partner, and so it was a really interesting year. I did work a little bit less, but no matter what, we did a lot of wall projects and mural projects. And we will also organize a contemporary art walk in the city of Ostend with video installations, live projects, and video mapping, stuff like that. So you have to transition. I think everybody needs to transition and adapt to the situation.
Cool. Yasha, hi to New York. How is it there?
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name is Yasha Young. I'm in New York. I'm the founder of Urban Nation Berlin. I'm a museum creator. I'm a museum director, a future curator, and a creative city planner. I do my projects mostly in New York, Berlin, London, and Tokyo. For me, it was a very interesting year as well, because I work at 3 projects simultaneously. So I was just starting to build a project, a new museum in New York, at the same time building a new museum in Berlin, at the same time developing new projects in Japan. So for me, it was interesting because all 3 building projects came to a halt, but it was a fantastic opportunity to press that reset button that really, in my opinion, needs desperate resetting. And in a very strange way, as much as it's unfortunate what the pandemic brings, in a very strange way, I think it brought a lot of positive, of slowing down, radical rethinking of projects, radical rethinking of production chains, who we work with, how we work things. I'm developing, through my work at Harvard at the moment, a new way of how museums can actually reopen, and how we are going to deal with the public. What is the public experience going to be? What is the future of VR going to be? Which parts of our bodies are we still going to use while we are going to be in a museum? And which kind of ways are we walking? What kind of new ways of walking are we installing? How do we, as a museologist, my main important thing is, before it was, how do we preserve street art that is on the wall? Because it gets constantly painted over. What do we do about that? Now my focus is, how do we actually preserve the experience of perceiving the art? How are we going to go back into into a one-on-one, into an emotional experience, into a lasting experience. So I'm really researching at the moment more than I ever have between art and humans and futures. So for me, it has been incredibly interesting.
Cool, thank you. I just closed around with like the perspective of Urban Art Now. We have 10 years Urban Art Now this year. So every year we organize a big festival with 50 plus international artists. We paint murals, we give tours and workshops. So this was canceled already in March. All my other jobs are at big music festivals as well. So I would just, just sign everything you three said. Like it was a downtime, it was a rethinking, it was developing new skills. And together with Wynwood Mural Fest, we also went digital to research and to try out new possibilities to present our art and to make art still available to the public when everybody has to stay at home and to follow the current regulations. This is also like my little bridge to the next point. What was your biggest learning experience, or like that you also want to apply for next year? Because obviously we don't want to stop. So what can you take as a get-go out of this pandemic year, and how would you apply it for next year? What's coming up, Tina?
I think definitely mirroring what Yasha was saying about time. So traditionally running an art fair and doing kind of the amount of mural projects and, just constantly doing exhibitions, you just didn't have very much time to really think about your production, to think about, me specifically, I've been really interested in how the projects we do in the street art world and the art sector specifically are extremely damaging to the environment. So, notoriously Art Basel and, even Freeze would have thousands of people flying over, the production, all of that. Like, it was just really, when we think about it, wasn't all very necessary. Was it necessary to travel that much and do that many projects and to be that consistently busy all the time? And I think this year has allowed me to take that very necessary back seat to rethink about those things and how my professional life needs to really align with my personal morals and values. And sometimes those weren't meeting because we were so kind of crunched to a deadline, we couldn't really think about the sustainability elements of our work. So this year I've been able to focus a lot more on that. I've developed a lot more partnerships to help bridge the gap between environmental programs, new technology, new mediums, new materials like bioplastics specifically, and how to get the art world to adapt, to basically change their behavior a little bit and start taking responsibility for the impact we put on the planet. And seeing how we can do that also with street art. Spray cans are not recycled, even if they have a recycling symbol on the back of them. They are full of chemicals. They're not very great for the environment at any point of their production. So I've tried to look at, not using spray paint in our mural programs. We're doing one next year where we're using air purifying paint, actually, which absorbs carbon out of the air, and rolling it and, using paint sprayers and just trying to track our emissions. I think there's a lot we can do as curators now. The planet needs our help. And I think artists obviously want to constantly have a connection to the earth and protect the planet. And I think we definitely have an opportunity this year to take a step, take a break, take a breath, and try to think, how can we continue our work in 2021 and beyond, but be more in line with the planet's needs. We can still be amazing curators and artists. We just could also show other industries how to be better at doing business. So that's really what I've taken. I think it was having the time to really stop and think and to put into place new practice, which before we just didn't have the time to do.
Yeah, great. Björn, how is it? What's your take on this year and next year?
I want to split it up in two things. First of all, the personal effect of the Corona crisis. I really, I actually have ADD, so I always juggled multiple projects and was running around all the time. I never stopped working 7 days per week, and because of the Corona crisis, I had to adapt to a more slower environments. And at first, it was really difficult because I can't really sit still. And now I had to sit still and be at home. So for first few months, I had like a little flash of depression. I think it was really rethinking, and then I slowly tried to adapt myself to the situation. And now I've been doing other stuff than doing art projects. I've been taking more time to stroll around in a park or in a forest. And I think it's really important to have a couple of days per week just not working and just think and uh, learn to breathe and learn to walk and see the beautiful nature and see your beautiful surroundings, because I was too much absorbed with my work. On a professional level, I would say that we had to rethink the experience of the visitor, not only thinking about the safety of the visitor, but also rethink the experience. Um, and that also means embracing technology a bit more, because let's put it straight, art is not really very high tech or um, very unconventional on the technology part. So we had to think about things um, to embrace technology, like with a virtual reality environment for a gallery, or doing more stuff online. And I think it has been a really interesting lesson for me, I must admit. So it was really interesting. I find it really sad that we could not celebrate the fifth anniversary of the Crystal Ship, but I'm sure we'll do that another time.
Yasha, thanks, Björn. Yasha, what's up on your side for this next year?
Well, for me, I am very happy. Like I'm watching everything from the point of, yes, slowing down is important, but me, I think so far ahead, and as a future researcher, I'm actually super challenged. It makes me very happy because now is the time where I get to work even harder. I get to work even more because I get to think ahead even more than I've already done as a producer. I now is my time to think about everything that's going on, and that's from museum care. What museums will reopen? What is the financials behind it? What museums do make sense to put together? Maybe merge them instead of having two houses. New ways of visitor experience, like Björn said, is very important. New ways of green thinking in the production is very important. But I have made it my mission also. I'm working with architecture, so I can this would be too much for here, but I can tell you that this pandemic has impacted architecture and the way we are going to build new venues, the way we are going to build music festivals or galleries is completely changed. And the way we approach architecture has changed, not only in the way where usually architecture expands and compresses spaces. It opens up where people walk and it puts them together in order to create experiences. This is no longer possible. But we do want to have the same phenomenal experience within the architecture and within the work that we show. We want to create moments of excitement within our curation. So that's one thing that is going to change drastically. Within that, the use of what material we're using. We're going to go and use a lot of fungicide, repellent, new surfaces, viral repellent, new surfaces. This research has been quite invigorating for me. And that's the fast part. The slow part that I am thinking of, where I'm also thinking fast, but I'm protecting the slow part, is I'm quite worried about the creative process at the moment. I see that everybody wants to go digital and everybody has spend enormous amounts of money transforming their spaces into virtual spaces and offering virtual experience with exhibitions, which I completely understand because we have to go on, we have to find new ways. However, being that I have been from the beginning of the pandemic in a Zoom conference almost 3 to 4 times a day, every single day, by the time the night comes around, I do not enjoy anymore to watch a virtual gallery space. That's number one. Number two is this enormous outpour of new creatives, new creativity, which means we have now reached a point where, due to the fact that a lot of people have unfortunately lost their job, the amount of creatives has gone up, has doubled. So there's a lot more creative output. Finding the way within this creative output to identify what is actually new streams, what is actually quality work, and where this is going is also quite interesting. But because of this new rise of the new experts and the micro curators and the new artist waves, we have sped up the creative process enormously. So people need to create even more now to exist in the digital realm. And this to me is something that I'm trying to find ways how to slow this down, because we're discarding pieces before they even finished. We are now more than ever concerned with the fact that we need to be seen. Our brand is a commodity. Our social media presence has to be there. We have to go steady on rising numbers of followers, which means we will create for a different reason than to create for art and art's sake. So there's old school artists that have learned that know how to take themselves out, or that their careers are already at the point where they have the oeuvre, where they don't have to hustle as much anymore. But the new artists need to be protected. And especially when you put out a work too early with a work in process and you don't get the likes that you were expecting, you will take that work down. And this way you will destroy something that could have potentially been wonderful and could have been part of your development as an artist, but you will abandon it because you have decided, or the public has decided, that this is no good. So this is not a good process for young talent. This is not a good process for art. And so this is what I'm trying to focus on for the next year.
Thank you. I think this was actually also like a really good bridge into like a next round, because we talked a lot about digitalization and new ways. So like what Yasha just said and explained, how is this for Moniker Art Fair going? What do you think about digitalization of art, putting everything online, having this virtual experiences? Is this the way to go? Or what would you be like, if you want to answer to Yasha or to her points, what would you from your perspective say, Tina?
I've watched all the art fairs go digital. I've watched exhibitions go digital, and I've seen some of the platforms. To be completely honest with you, none of it inspires me. And I have always been focused on curation and the power to impact people through quality curation, installations, immersive experiences with my fairs, that trying to take those experiences and put them online, it would be not even worth my time, because it's not possible so far. Unless you go into like the VR experience, or, you know, looking 20 years ahead, then of course, maybe technology will allow us to have similar emotional connections, visual connections, networking experiences and opportunities that we experience when we're in a physical event, surrounded by other people that have similar energy and excitement for the art. And there's a very special energy that happens at the opening of Moniker from my 10 years of working with the fair. And I just haven't been able to feel inspired to think about how I'm going to bring that digitally. And I'm not going to lie, I've definitely felt the pressure from investors, partners, sponsors, galleries to try to come up with a digital solution. But from a curatorial perspective and the way that I have operated in my career, it doesn't feel authentic. And maybe because everything has happened so fast, maybe, of course, if this is the only way for the next couple of years, I'll start looking at more digital platforms to do something. However, at this time, I'm not feeling very motivated by the technology that is on offer. And I have a hard time with trying to take those very precious experiences and just turn them digital. I I also have tried to take a little bit of a digital detox this year because obviously the pandemic has allowed us to not have to be on our computers all the time, or especially because I'm an event manager. Normally I am working 14, 15 hours a day for a huge event, and I don't normally get up off my seat because I'm sitting there on my computer. And now I've been able to, like Bjorn has said, take some much needed time in nature, take walks, get inspired again, find my, my kind of creative passion and purpose again, which was definitely needed for me to feel like, inspired again to come up with something hopefully brilliant for the future. But I just, don't expect a digital Moniker Art Fair anytime soon, basically.
Okay, that's loud and clear. Björn, what did you experience? What's your take on this digitalization, especially also with your gallery and the art sales process?
Yeah, when I'm talking about the digitalization, I'm mostly talking about my art gallery. And it's actually the followers, the fans, and the visitors of the gallery that asked for a virtual way to visit the gallery to see the artworks on display. And so that's what we did. Even if there was no pandemic, we still would have a virtual tour on our website for sure, but we just had to speed up that process. So that's what we did. But I also feel what Tina is saying, that it's very difficult to see a virtual art fair or a virtual art festival. With the Crystal Ship, my street art festival in Austin, I did not adapt to a digital way of visiting the festival. We just canceled the festival, and we're going to do it back when it's safe to visit. What we mainly did is, with all our customers and clients, we try to emphasize that uh, producing and visiting street art projects are still corona safe. And people, I've read the newspaper this morning, and the Belgian newspaper said that the amount of people that go walking in a forest or walking at the beach has tripled in the last year. And visiting street art projects or murals, which is also are also on display in public space, is also a very corona safe way, corona proof way to go outside and get inspired by art. So that's what we mainly did, emphasize that to our customers. And that's also the reason we still did about 15 to 18 mural projects in Belgium in the last year, uh, where normally we would have done like 30, but I think it's still feasible from a business perspective. So I think it's very needed to emphasize that street art is very corona proof. Yeah.
Yeah. Yasha,
Actually,
sorry.
Yeah.
it really is very corona proof to visit and even to produce a mural.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely. Yasha, you also mentioned earlier there are a couple of projects you are working right now. Also, like you're flying to Berlin. Is there something like how did you adapt, or what's the concept now with Corona to open some of these projects, or how do they go on? Could you tell a
Well,
little bit more?
they will go on regardless, because it's projects that are meant for, like, these are substantial projects. The Humboldt Forum has been going on for me for already 4 years, and the build for even longer. These are massive state-funded projects to which I, when I worked with Haunozem and when I worked with David Meskish and we worked 2 years ago and started working for 2 years in the whole process. These projects will go on. When I think about digitalization, I think it's a very interesting situation that you can see now, because before, when street art went digital, when art in general, graffiti, street art, everybody went digital, all the big institutions were more like, what is this? Why do we need to go? How do they have these millions of followers? Then now, through the pandemic, it became very aware that this hesitation to get with the digitalization in the museums, because there was a hesitation, has now completely, as Björn said, has sped up. We needed to speed up the process. Every museum now has kind of looked for ways to connect with their audiences. I mean, in most museums and institutions, there wasn't even a staff position for a digital or social media manager. That just simply didn't exist. And now we are able to create these new formats where we actually can say this is absolutely right. Like, for example, I consult a pretty big museum at the moment, and the first thing I told them was, you will have to implement a social media manager that will run this for you in order to stay in touch and have this platform. I think that when we look at the problems of digitalization, it has also something to do with purchase. I find that also interesting in my research. Like it's 3 points. Number one is, of course, digital is interesting because if you combine COS, JR, Shepherd Ferry, and let's name one of the big ones, just name one, it doesn't matter. If you combine their social media followers, they have more, sometimes a single one of them, sometimes combined, they have more than the MoMA, more followers, more reach than any of the big institutions who dominate any decision-making process that will affect art history. So there's a shift there because they have to work together there. They realize that. Number two is, I think street art really should focus back on its power of analog. Like Björn said, there is a power in it. I don't agree that they're during the pandemic, they're very good for the person who was working on the lift because they're removed. But if people gather below, it is still an issue. It's still an issue for the city. It's an issue for safety workers. But in general, street art has had that value of being public. And while every single museum has closed, and that's something to think about, this was a major shift. Every museum closed. Art cannot be consumed. Art lesson can't be taken. Everything, if you didn't have it online, was ground to a halt. But street art could show. People could connect with it. They could be seen. You could walk past somewhere. You could see it out of your window sometimes even. And there's a great power in the emotional power, which museums don't want. Museums don't want emotional art. No. But I think there's an enormous power in the emotional connection street art generates analog with people in cities, countries, places where it's actually produced, drivers by or whatever. And I think that for me going forward, for all my projects, I will focus, as I said before, more and more on the analog because the digital is happening. Take VR experiences right now, it's an absolute nightmare. You can't do it. You can't do it because you cannot control the headphones and the masks. You'll have to wash them, clean them, detox. Every single step now has a step in between that is more costly. Every step that what you do, like things that are done with touching with the fingers have now to be transferred to foot pedals. At the moment we're experiencing with foot pedals. Display differences, sometimes work that's meant to be consumed closely can no longer be seen close. So we have developed new ways of monitoring something that should be seen close, that you can zoom it in by non-touch touchpads. But all these things is what is interesting to me about digitalization and what I'm going to see my focus going forward. For me, it has not changed. It just has become more challenging, which is quite frankly something that I absolutely love.
I really want to add that digitalization will never replace the user experience of visiting an art fair or looking at art. It's more about connecting with your audience, and that's something that needed to be done ages ago already. So I'm very happy for the pandemic because it propelled some of the organizations, as what Yasha was telling, to that state where a lot of artists were already at for ages. It's about connecting.
I think we have to learn to be, while we have to speed up, we have to learn what you guys said, Tina and Björn, we have to learn how to slow down at the same time. And that process will be quite challenging because we have to speed up development, innovation, and production in order to provide visitor experience and future programming in a safe space. But we have to slow down to understand exactly what we're doing and to make sure that we protect the experience.
Yes, that's is there anything else you guys now in a random order want to add? What did inspire you this year, or is there something you said like, okay, this is like worth mentioning? Because I think we covered a lot of good points already. Is there one thing to add?
Well, I've actually, but it's more like something personal, really, because I went more for a walk in the nature. I went to a forest like 2 hours ago. I went to walk in the forest for 3 hours, and actually, really weird. It totally inspires me to do other creative things. And when I'm in a forest, I have no computer near me, no artwork to be seen. But when I return back home, I have this clean slate
Yeah.
feeling, and I can look at things I've been working on with a new pair of glasses. And I think it's really important that sometimes you have to go away a little bit and then to come back with fresh energy and fresh inspiration. So actually, I want to thank nature for being there because it has been a great source of inspiration, and which I must admit I neglected too often. So I'm very glad. I will keep on doing that. By the way, I'll try to preserve my Sunday to visit nature because
I'm
I.
so glad you said that. This is so funny because 15 years ago, I purchased a piece of forest, random,
Did.
only to find out that you cannot build on it. So I bought a piece of forest because I wanted to build a tiny house. But then I found out I didn't buy the permit. I was very young. I didn't buy the permit that I can build on it. However, I've made it a little artist sanctuary. And I think, Tina, you and I spoke about it when I was at Moniker, that I always go there and I always have artists go there. And every time an artist has visited me or an artist has stayed with me, either in that house or here or somewhere else, that this energy that comes from being removed from all the digital garbage that we feed, by free will or forced into our brains, is offering a new platform of creativity. And if we could just incorporate that going forward and keeping it that way. Tina takes the longest walks ever where she's at. She's in the middle of nature and it's phenomenal. I have my forest that I'm just going to camp out in the summer and let that be. I think if we can incorporate that a little bit more, that would be interesting. One point that I think might be really interesting in the future also is, I think we're going to see a great change of subject matter in the artworks. I think this is something that I would like to keep a record of and archive. Whilst we've seen a lot of portrait work, a lot of flashy work, a lot of figurative work, I think people have started to take even their work as street artists to a next level and started to, really change their subject matters, change what they paint and why they paint it. And it has grown up a lot, street art, a lot. And that is something I find super inspiring and very interesting.
Tina, anything to add?
Oh no, I'm just enjoying this conversation. I'm like,
Me too, actually.
to hear that I'm not alone in really going back to nature. I think that's definitely been a huge must for us, especially I think, not like boosting our own ourselves up, but like Bjorn, Yasha, myself, we're really kind of responsible for bringing a lot of people together a lot of the time in our career, because we're production managers, producers, festival organizers, curators. We are the person that kind of, once we come up with an idea, it's on us to make that idea come to life, find all the artists, find the galleries, bring all these people together. And if we're not really balanced and have our feet firmly on the ground, sometimes our decisions cannot reflect the best kind of part of ourselves. I think sometimes we might be too caught up with, the spreadsheets, or is our curation really top quality? Did we select the right artist? Are we doing this the right way? There might be a lot of like, because we work through such tight deadlines and so many people are watching us to develop and deliver. I personally have felt that pressure a lot in my career, that if I don't deliver this, it's on me. And that's why, for me, it's really important, just like an artist, it's very important that they have their time in their studio and they're not interrupted and people don't negatively influence their artwork. It's also very important for us to know that we need time out. We need time to find our creative purpose, to find our passion, to really help guide the next generation of younger curators and help make sure that we are presenting art in a way that is not only relevant for the visitors of today, but also is going to challenge people. It's going to create that really lasting impact, that we are doing the best job we can to represent the art that we love. So I think having this break has allowed me to go back to that really kind of innocent kind of mentality I had when I first started in my career. I had so much pop energy and I was really excited by everything. I wasn't kind of bombarded yet by the rat race of life. And this break has kind of brought back that childlike love that I had for art. And again, like Bjorn was saying, it gives you that refresh, like spending a couple hours in nature, you come back to the drawing board a little bit more aligned, your feet are firmly on the ground and you can make those decisions that you're going to feel confident about later down the line. So I think, especially in the creative world and the production world, we needed a little bit of time to reassess what we were doing. And I think this has definitely given me that. I mean, I own a pair of hiking boots. I have never in my life owned a pair of hiking boots. So, I'm a changed woman.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so much. This was super interesting. It also took own ways, like everybody made good contributions to everything. Thank you so much. All the best also for the upcoming projects and everything you're planning for your personal and for your business and for everything also for next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you.
For watching. Stay tuned for 305 Live for Wynwood Mural Fest virtual experience. Thanks for watching. We'll see you this afternoon. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the galleries. There's amazing art from all over the world, near and far. Coming to you live and direct the virtual cyberspace of Wynwood in sunny Miami, Florida.